-4 and counting.
Good morning and welcome to AirOccupy. I'm Liz, and together with my co-hosts Virginia, Shannon, and Jerry, we speak truth to power and occupy your mind. Today we're talking about the Supreme Court case Citizens United and Move to Amend. And later in the hour, we will be talking with someone from Occupy Montreal. If you have any thoughts or questions about this stuff, call us on air at 386-523-1380 or post on our blog, airoccupy.blogspot.com, or on our Facebook page. You can also tweet us. Tweet with us at AirOccupy. And if you haven't given us Facebook love, please do. So, like I said, we're talking about Citizens United, and later we're going to talk about Move to Amend with Stephan Justino, who is on the executive committee of Move to Amend. So, got a good show coming up.
What is that Citizens United thing?
Well, glad you asked. Citizens United versus the Federal Elections Commission was a landmark case decided in 2010. And just a little background on what the case said, or what the case was about. Citizens United is a non-profit organization created to influence elections, and they wanted to run a film called Hillary, and it was a feature-length attack ad against Hillary Clinton, and they wanted to run this during the primary in 2008 when she was running against Barack, and the campaign finance bill, McCain-Feingold, said that Citizens United couldn't run this movie or the trailers for the movie 30 days before the primary election. So Citizens United sued the Federal Elections Commission and, excuse me, and it wanted a ruling on just a narrow issue of whether McCain-Feingold applied to it, because the Hillary movie was an issue ad. What they said was an issue ad. And the Supreme Court actually opened up a big can of worms and said, we're going to look at all of McCain-Feingold and all of campaign finance, not just the narrow issue that Citizens United asked. And so we got this crazy decision that said, let me get the, no. Sorry about that.
In the form of a question, please.
In the form of a question, yes. The First Amendment prohibited the government from restricting independent political expenditures by corporations and unions, meaning that after Citizens United, corporations and unions could give unlimited amounts to this newly created entity called a super PAC, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Basically, it found that money is speech, and that corporations are people in the sense that they have First Amendment rights, like the right to speech.
Think about what that means.
Yeah, aren't we relieved to know that we are on the same level playing field with corporations like, and not to pick on anyone, but this is the fact of the matter, General Electric, the large communications corporations, in addition to every large corporation that has huge amounts of money, or very wealthy individual, as we saw in the Republican primaries recently, who can just step up to the plate and drop as much into the coffers as they want, are on an equal footing with me. And I'm just not entirely sure that I like those odds.
I'm sure our elected officials will listen to you just as well as they listen to somebody with billions of dollars.
And I can get my message out just exactly as effectively as, someone who owns, say, several major television networks.
Buy some time.
Buy some time, right?
Right.
$10 buys a lot, I hear.
Yeah, after Citizens United, I kind of joked. I said, well, I'm not giving my $25 anymore. Like it mattered.
So before Citizens United, what were the limitations on how corporations were allowed to support candidates, or how money could become involved in the process?
Right. Well, before Citizens United, corporations and unions could give to political action committees, or essentially PACs, but the PACs could not contribute to campaigns, and they had individual limits on contributions, and corporations and unions couldn't contribute directly. It had to be through people. And after Citizens United, corporations are quote unquote people, so they can give like people can. And the
Even though people still have the limits, individuals.
Yes, even though individuals still have limits.
That's fair.
That's an interesting point.
Yes.
Oh.
And the other issue about these political action committees is that they can accept unlimited contributions, and the contributions do not have to be disclosed post Citizens United.
So we don't know who's donating what.
Right,
No.
right, exactly. And that's what they call the quote-unquote super PAC. It's not the regular PAC that was created. Most of the PACs before, it gets a little complicated, but
So-called soft
I actually
money.
don't know the difference, so I appreciate you explaining it.
Right. So most of the PACs before Citizen United were nonprofit corporations who could take donations from individuals.
And bundle them and use them
bundle
for
them and
issues
use
or-
them for issues. But they also had an interesting restriction that said that half of their money, since they were a nonprofit corporation, this is the 501c4, not to get too technical, but half of their money had to be used for furthering their nonprofit goal.
Oh,
So
okay.
half could be used. So if they got $1 million donation, which they did get in 2008, half of that money, $500,000, could be for political ads on certain issues, but the other half had to do something else. It couldn't. The other half could not go to
Oh, okay.
political campaign ads. So that's kind of.
And so the super PACs are just wide open, can just dump
Super PACs
100% of all of their money directly into whatever they feel like spending it on
Yes,
politically.
except for they have two restrictions. They cannot spend directly on candidates, and they cannot accept foreign contributions. Now,
Well, how do we know that if the contributions are kept confidential?
You don't.
you don't.
So we're just taking their
and
word
in
for
fact,
it.
it was demonstrated that, pardon my voice today, I have a bit of a cold, but that the Chamber of Commerce was in fact taking foreign money in the last election cycle.
Yes, because and the other issue is anyone if it's not exactly that no one knows. It's not that it's not disclosed, but the disclosure laws are so lax that the disclosure often comes after the election. They can put it off. So these super PACs can put off saying, who these monies are from until way after the election.
Right.
So we wouldn't know. I mean, we could see this thing that says, we love America. America's great, super PAC that runs a nasty, nasty attack ad, and we won't know who paid for it until after the election's over. And then, even if after the election's over, people can incorporate themselves, create their own corporation, and give through this corporation to the super PAC, which adds another level of mystery and
Obfuscation.
thank you.
And removes another set of limits.
yes
Just
and-
got to say, it's my perspective as a lawyer and actually as a member of the Supreme Court bar, that I just find it amazing to think that after 235 years, suddenly 5 Supreme Court justices have divined that despite the Constitution not including the word corporation, that the founders actually intended that corporations be treated as people for purposes of the First Amendment free speech clause, and that free speech is equal to money. I guess it's not so free at some point. I don't notice the word money in the First Amendment. It seems that we have some kind of reverse Sears operating on the court now.
And this seems like such a radical reversal. I mean, it seems like, I hear a lot of people, so-called conservatives, complain about activist judges. This seems like, to me, as, a layperson who really doesn't understand the law as deeply as some other people in this room, I could mention Froggy and Liz, that they had to really go way out of their way to make that change. How did they justify? What was the basis? If you can explain it, in terms of some words with small syllables, so I can understand it. But
It really defies explanation, a rational explanation, that at this point in our history they've reached out, and in fact, there are some legal precepts. When you decide a case, you're only supposed to decide the matter before you. And in this case, the Supreme Court went well beyond the issues presented by the Citizens United petition. In fact, I think, if my recollection is correct, they requested rebriefing and re-argued it.
They did.
To reach the broader issue.
Yes, to reach the broader issue. So they heard there was a New Yorker article that came out last week about the court and how Chief Justice Roberts came up with this, and he found that he did have the 5 votes necessary to make a broader change to the campaign finance law. So he asked for he put instead of issuing an opinion on the first arguments, he ordered second arguments to happen before the court started in the next session. I think it was in August.
Has that happened before?
It has,
rarely.
but very, very rarely. I mean, almost never.
Where they asked people to come back in and give me an argument for this thing that I'd like to do.
Exactly.
Is that what it was?
Exactly. That's exactly what they did. And so they overreached. It was a huge, broad overreach on.
I guess it's only activist if you're a liberal.
Yes.
I'm afraid that's probably the case.
So I have a clip from Stephen Colbert talking about Stephen Colbert is a comedian and a
political candidate.
Yeah, and now a political candidate who started his own super PAC.
For the President of the United States of South Carolina.
For a better tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right?
So here's what he had to say about the super PAC.
Hello, freedom lovers. I am here to represent your voice, so please quiet down so we can all hear what you have to say with my mouth. I have a brief statement I would like to read. Fellow Americans, ladies and gentlemen, supporters, friends, and federal employees with extremely generous lunch break policies. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for standing with me for freedom. Now, it has been said that freedom isn't free. Today, we have placed a sizable down payment. Today, we put liberty on layaway. We are all in debt to my lawyers, Trevor Potter, and Matt Sanderson of the heroic law firm Kaplan and Drysdale. 2 names that will go down with the greats of American duos. Lewis and Clark, Sacco and Vanzetti, Harold and Kumar. Yeah. Of course, I don't need to tell any of you the story of Colbert Super PAC. Here's the story. 60 days ago today, on this very spot, a young man petitioned the FEC for permission to form a super PAC to raise unlimited monies and use them monies to determine the winners of the 2012 elections. Can anyone tell me who that young man was? It was me. Moments ago, the Federal Election Commission made their ruling. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say, we won! And so can you! Now, some people have cynically asked, is this some kind of joke? Well, I, for one, don't think that participating in democracy is a joke. I don't think that wanting to know what the rules are is a joke. But I do have one federal election law joke if you'd like to hear it. Yeah. Knock, knock. Who's there? Unlimited union and corporate campaign contributions. That's the thing. I don't think I should have to tell you.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. That was Stephen Colbert, and we're going to hear a song, and actually I think I'm going to play the whole thing because it's pretty funny. It's a Citizens United song, and the dude's name is Dave Lippman, so enjoy.
Judge ship in the window, the one with the balancing scale. How much is that judge ship in the window? I do hope that judge ship's for sale. I believe all corporations were created as a prequel to the leadership of those too big to fail. And when we have alighted in the Congress and been knighted, not that we were invited, and our love is not requited, to make up for that we call ourselves Citizens United. They say dollars and democracy don't mix, one swallows the other. Guess which I'm accused of gaming the system. That's just blaming the victimizer. 'Cause money is speech, oh yes, lots of it. A vote is fine, but money is above it. Buying elections, you gotta love it. Money works every time, and it's no crime. Not now. Don't donate to a candidate that beat too brash. The Chamber of Commerce will redeploy your cash. Make creative use of intermediaries. Launder your cash to keep elections clean. A rising tide lifts all votes. Some a little higher so they stay afloat. Every politician has his or her price. Who's to decide if that is or isn't nice? I'm an innovator, I'm on the cutting edge. If things need improving, I just buy a new legislature. A rose by any nomenclature is still a rose, it's just the rose I impose. Don't be shy with the corporate cash. Democracy's $1 billion bash. Though they say corporate government is fascism, that can't happen here. Maybe in Germany or Italy, but never here at home, where the people all have healthcare and the buffalo still roam. Yeah, the sky's the limit. My guy's gonna win it. Power, he'll be at its hub. To prepare for his election, he's putting in his hours at the country club. If you miss me at the voting booth, you can't find me there. Come on over to the ad agency, I'll be buying it there. Oh brother, I'll be buying it there. I'll be buying it there. Come on over to the TV studio, I'll be buying it there.
Do you own a small business? Would you like to reach like-minded people who care about supporting community-based commerce? Advertise with us. AirOccupy will work with you to develop a message that draws attention to your company and brings new consumers to your storefront or website. We offer an inexpensive alternative that targets your communications directly to your most valuable potential clients. Call us at 386-441-0423 or contact us via email at general@airoccupy.com. That's 386-441-0423 or general@airoccupy.com. We look forward to working with you.
Okay, and we're back, and we have Steve Justino on the line. He's a practicing attorney in Denver and co-chair for Move to Amend. And since April, he's been on the National Executive Committee for Move to Amend. And Shannon was going to tell us a little bit about Move to Amend.
Well, Move to Amend is a national movement to add an amendment to the Constitution that says that corporations are not people and money is not speech. The language of the amendment is that Section 1, corporations are not people and can be regulated. The rights protected by the Constitution of the United States are the rights of natural persons only. Artificial entities such as corporations, limited liability companies, and other entities established by the laws of any state, the United States, or any foreign state shall have no rights under this Constitution, seems like a no-brainer, and are subject to regulation by the people through federal, state, and or local law. The privileges of artificial entities shall be determined by the people, seems like a no-brainer, through federal, state, or local law, and shall not be construed to be inherent or inalienable. Section 2, money is not speech and can be regulated. Federal, state, and local government shall regulate, limit, or prohibit contributions and expenditures, including a candidate's own contributions and expenditures, for the purpose of influencing in any way the election of any candidate for public office or any ballot measure. Federal, state, and local government shall require that any permissible contributions and expenditures be publicly disclosed. The judiciary shall not construe the spending of money to influence elections to be free speech under the First Amendment. Section 3, nothing contained in this amendment shall be construed to abridge the freedom of the press.
Okay. Steve, are you on the line?
I am here.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. I don't know if you heard us reading out the text of the move to amend proposed constitutional amendment.
I heard you reading it. I like that language every time I hear it.
Did you help with the writing of that language?
I was not involved in that. That was done prior to me coming on to the executive committee. It was done last year, and I think they just did a stellar job with it.
It sounds great. It sounds wonderful.
It's clear, it's concise, it is directly on point, it fixes the problems that need to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you? Well, can you tell us a little bit of history? You know, I actually attended, this is Shannon, I attended David Cobb's presentation here a few months ago, and he talked about how corporations came to be. Well, first he talked about the fact that they used to operate by charter according to the public good.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like a very reasonable way for a corporation to operate to me.
It's the way it should be, isn't it?
Yeah.
A corporation is just a tool. It's something that we make so that we can effectively do business. It's no different than a hammer. It's no different than a cell phone. It's just a tool. And the idea that that tool should have constitutional rights separate and apart from my rights as the owner of that tool is just ridiculous.
I completely agree.
Now, how do you and Move to Amend feel about unions? Because I know a lot of the people who have been criticizing the Move to Amend and the citizen, or who have been in support of the Citizens United decision have said that unions should be regulated as well, if corporations are regulated. But from my understanding, unions are a group of people. It's a collection of people, whereas a corporation is a legal entity.
Well, there's certainly a legal argument can be made that unions should be treated differently than corporations are. Move to Amend's position, though, is that we should not make that distinction. We actually do think that labor unions and nonprofit advocacy groups are also artificial entities. Most of them are created under state law, and they are not just an association of people. So our position is that constitutional rights belong to human beings only, and no artificial entity, be it a union, be it a corporation, for-profit business corporation, or a nonprofit advocacy group, should have individual constitutional rights that are separate and apart from the people who make up that entity.
How would you square that with the rights to associate?
Well, because with corporations, for example, a business corporation is not just an association of people. Nobody is forced to incorporate. People choose to incorporate so that they can get the benefits that go along with incorporation. They want preferential treatment under the tax codes. They want limited liability. They want a business entity that can live longer than any individual member who forms it. Those are all benefits that go along with forming a corporation, that you have to actually go to the state and apply for a license, basically, to incorporate. So that's different than just an association of like-minded people. So there is a constitutional right for like-minded people to get together and to speak in one voice about an issue. That's different than saying that a corporation or Most labor unions are incorporated. Most all nonprofits are nonprofit corporations. So if you go and ask the state for those special rights, then you just have to live with the restrictions that go along with being that specially or that group that's granted those special rights. And one of those responsibilities, I think, should be that you can't use your corporate funds or your group funds to individually or to attempt to influence politics.
Maybe we could give some examples of the effects of corporate influence in government. Do you have some handy ones?
Well, sure, and this quite frankly is why. And let me step back from that a minute first. To a certain extent, we in the pro-democracy movement are the victims of our own clever wordsmithing. When people talk about corporations are not people, that's a great bumper sticker, and it's something that people do understand on a very basic level, but it really doesn't describe the problem. The problem is not that corporations are people. The problem is that corporations have been recognized to have inalienable constitutional rights under the U.S. Constitution, which doesn't fit so well on a bumper sticker. Same thing with saying that we have to overturn Citizens United. There's a real, it's an easy shorthand way to discuss this problem. Say it's the Citizens United issue, and everybody understands it, but it's really more than just the Citizens United issue. One of the biggest problems with this whole milieu of issues is that it's not just Citizens United. It's that corporations have inalienable constitutional rights, and they use those to the detriment of we, the people. For example, yes, in politics right now, because corporations have been recognized to have First Amendment rights under the U.S. Constitution, they are free to use their corporate funds to set up these quote-unquote independent advocacy advertisements, or to produce these independent political expenditures, and they're drowning our democracy with it. But it's not just the First Amendment they're abusing. Under the Fourth Amendment, do you know that it's not possible for OSHA to go in and do a surprise inspection of a factory without a warrant or without probable cause? Because corporations have been recognized to have Fourth Amendment rights under the Constitution and to be free from unreasonable search and seizures. So if OSHA wants to go in and do an inspection, they either have to go to court and get a warrant, or they have to get the permission of the factory owner. And how many violations are we really going to find if we have to call and give a week's notice of our surprise inspection? Not too many. So
the corporation could be polluting the public and
Sure.
causing
Endangering their workers.
cancer, endangering the workers, endangering their lives, and we have to give them a heads
Communities.
we have to give them have to give them advance notice. So by the time our inspectors get there, the polluting is stopped temporarily or is hidden, so they don't find it. And that's all because corporations have inalienable rights under the Fourth Amendment.
And
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It is just through the looking glass. I mean, it's really, really hard to get my head around, the idea that you would grant this kind of personhood status to a
Right.
corporate entity. And we hear a lot of people who are on the other side of the political spectrum, from myself at least, who really want to justify what they want to see happen, how they want to shape this country in terms of the original intent of the founders of the country.
Which makes me laugh.
How do they rationalize? Have you heard any kind of sensible rationalization of this kind of radical change in terms of what original intent might have included? I mean,
No.
how can you say on one issue that you want to recognize, that you believe that you know what the original intent was, and then say things like this that just have nothing to do with the foundational documents of this country.
Here's all I need to know about original intent, to the extent that there is such a thing, and to the extent that the other side tends to claim that that's what their interest is. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights mention the people or people 29 times, mentions corporations no times. Okay? They had corporations at the founding of this country.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of the U.S. colonies was a crown corporation chartered by the King of England. The British East India Company was the biggest, baddest multinational corporation in the world at the time, and it was riding roughshod over the rights of colonists all over the world. The colonists knew what corporations were. They knew how abuses of corporate power could affect people. The Boston Tea Party was an act of anti-corporate vandalism. It's what it was.
The black bloc of their time.
It was. Absolutely. And the idea, well, that tells me everything I need to know about the founders' original intent, which is they didn't intend corporations to have any meaningful role in the politics of our society. If they did intend corporations to have a role, it would have been written into the Constitution, just like
They might
the
have
press
just mentioned
is
it.
written into the Constitution, and the post office is written into the Constitution. Okay?
Right.
The founders knew what corporations were. They intentionally excluded corporations from any meaningful role.
And I love it that you use that particular East India Tea Company example, because one of the earliest thoughts that I had about this, and I'm the furthest thing from a constitutional scholar, was I was pretty sure Thomas Jefferson didn't want the East India Tea Company telling us how to run our government.
Absolutely did not.
It just, anyway, that's a mind boggler for me. I'm the ability of people to hold two contradictory ideas in their heads at the same time is a skill that I've never developed.
One of my favorite Thomas Jefferson quotes is from I think it's 1816, where he said, "I hope we shall crush in its infancy the moneyed aristocracy of our corporations, which already challenge our government to a trial of power." He could foresee what the corporations were becoming. He certainly never would have countenanced this.
Yep.
As Justice Stevens said, corporations have no consciences, no beliefs,
don't.
no feelings, no thoughts, no desires.
No.
The consciences is a real kicker.
And they have one reason, and one and only one reason for existing, and that is to earn a profit. And that has, that may or may not, and really will tend not to be consistent with the best interests of the communities, of nations, of individuals, of the health of the government, of the economy, of anything else. That's their purpose.
That's why they have to be regulated.
That's
You're
their
absolutely
job.
right.
Absolutely.
They are profit-making machines. They're not evil. Corporations are not evil.
Right.
They are not human. They are not immoral. They are amoral. They are profit-making machines that need to be regulated by human beings who do have motives other than profit. That's one of our roles. That's a duty of ours, is to control what our corporations do. And then, see, that's the problem with this whole Citizens United or this whole corporate constitutional rights thing. It's not just the money in politics. It's that if we, the people, get together and we convince our legislators to pass strong regulations on corporations, for example, fracking. Okay, if we want to tell corporations that either no, you can't frack at all, or you can frack, but before you frack, you have to tell us down to the nanoparticle level what the composition of your fracking fluid is, we should be able to do that. And no corporation should then be able to go to court and argue that their inherent constitutional rights they were never intended to have in the first place should be used to overturn our regulations. It's a power that no corporation should have, no entity should have. If we, the people, want to regulate we should be able to regulate.
So where is Move to Amend with this now? How are you going about bringing about this amendment?
Okay, so there's two things that are happening right now. First of all, we are involved in a strategy to get cities and towns across the country to put before their voters voter initiatives to vote in support of the Move to Amend amendment, or in the absence of that, to at least get their city or county governments to pass resolutions in support of the Move to Amend amendment. The reason we like actually going right to the people is that Move to Amend is all about grassroots organizing, both because that's where the power is, that's where the power should reside, and that's where it's going to have to be if this amendment is ever actually going to get passed and ratified. It has to come back to the people for ratification, so we're trying to grow that grassroots support right now.
I know that, for instance, the city of Los Angeles
Right.
and the city of Tampa have already passed resolutions in support of the language of Move to Amend in a constitutional amendment. I think actually haven't a couple states passed such resolutions?
I think Vermont has just recently, and I don't know if they actually use the Move to Amend language, but
Vermont's language was introduced by a state senator named Lyons, and she did base her resolution on the Move to Amend amendment. Here's the thing, though, is that when you're jumping ahead to even cities levels like Los Angeles without going to the people, it's good for what it is, and I strongly encourage people to do that if that's all their law allows. But, Los Angeles made a splash in the newspaper, and it got on the national news for a couple of news cycles, but now that's gone, okay? And what they didn't do in Los Angeles is they didn't get out there and talk to their people to build grassroots support for it. People in this country have a notoriously short attention span, and that's no longer the news. Whereas if they had done a citywide campaign where the people in Los Angeles all had to vote on the issue, they had to learn about it, they had to decide what their position was on it, and then they voted in support of it, that's a deeper understanding and a deeper support than just something that the city council, who most people don't even know who their city council people are.
Right.
So that's why Move to Amend prefers going to the people. Every place this has ever gone to the people, it passes overwhelmingly. In Boulder, Colorado, passed 75 to 25%. In Missoula, Montana, it passed 75 to 25%. In Madison, Wisconsin, it passed 80% to 20%. So every place that people have, at this point, had a chance to vote on it, it's been passed overwhelmingly, and that's what Move to Amend is trying to do.
And I think you're really having an impact on this, and I also think, in fact, when the situation is explained to people, even people who aren't political obsessives, like certain people I could mention, me. When you explain it to them, they really can't understand that it's the wrong thing for the country.
Even thoughtful conservatives.
Yes.
That we can convince. Here's where I find the conservatives breaking down. We can get almost every conservative to come halfway with us. The libertarian conservatives will agree with us 100% that corporations are not people. But they balk at the idea of money is not speech, because they think that the millionaire candidate or the gazillionaire candidate backer should be able to spend their money any way they want to spend it.
Well, Steve, I have to cut you off. We need to go.
Okay.
But I am so happy you came. I love it when we learn new things from our guests. And your website is www.movetoamend.org.
It is.
Okay.
Check it out. Get out there and sign our petition. We're over 200,000 signatories on the petition now. We want 500,000 by next January, the next anniversary of Citizens United. So
And-
get out there, check out the petition, and sign it.
And you suggest that if people don't think that corporations should have constitutional rights, that they go to their civic groups, they go to their city commission, and advocate for.
Absolutely, get involved.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you guys
much.
for
We
all
really
being involved,
appreciate
and
it.
thanks for having me on
Fight
the air.
on.
We're going to go to a break now, and we'll come back with Occupy Montreal.
Tu diras, tu diras que c'est l'instinct qui t'a mené jusqu'ici. L'intuition d'un sentiment qui ne reviendra pas. Tu diras que tout est sans piocher du même bord, d'un même élan poussé par une force étrange.
Chair City Supply, a 55-year-old distributor to the furniture industry, now has a product line designed just for you, whether you're a home hobbyist or a professional cabinet maker. For years, we have stocked many quality brands of product for the furniture industry. Now we are able to offer you the same quality products and pack sizes that fit any custom woodworker's requirements. Chair City Supply offers a wide selection of cabinet hardware, professional custom stains, any type of screw or hinge you need, and everything to complete your project with style. Visit us at chaircitysupply.com to order today. That's chaircitysupply.com.
T-4 and counting.
That offbeat yet harmonious cacophony at the beginning of the clip was the sound of thousands of people banging pots and pans in Montreal, as they have been every night in the casseroles, French for pans, protests against Law 78. In response to 100 days of student protest against tuition hikes, the government passed Law 78, intended to effectively quell any protest of more than 50 people, and resulting in mass arrests and police violence against the citizens of Canada, criminal charges, and outrageously high fines in retribution for citizens peacefully expressing their displeasure with the decisions of their governing officials.
We have someone from Occupy Montreal on the line. Jamie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for calling in. We've been reading a lot about the protests that have been going on in Montreal, and we'd love to hear a first-hand account of what's going on.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're reading a lot about it. It takes a lot of time, I guess. We've been protesting for 106 days now, I believe.
Wow.
The strike started then. It was voted democratically through student unions, a lot of student unions who've never even had elections like this before, who had strike votes. And so they had direct democracy general assemblies, which were completely new to a lot of the universities, especially the English ones.
So was this done through Occupy Montreal, or was it kind of a confluence of issues that came together with the Arab Spring and
well, this was actually passed. They decided that they were going to go with the tuition hikes. The Liberal government of Jean Charest were going to go with the tuition hikes before Occupy even started. It was with the budget that they passed. It wasn't a discussion. It was just a black and white decision that, okay, the tuition needs to go up. It needs to average out to what the rest of tuition is in Canada. But some factors that weren't considered was that Quebec already pays the highest taxes in Canada, bar none, for one. And two, something that's very important to Quebecers in their hearts is education. The Quiet Revolution in the 1960s was effectively a separation of church and state for us. And with that came an agreement that we would push towards a free educational system, because we believed that was very important. So for the government to just make a unilateral decision without speaking to its people to ask them what they thought about changing the direction of the province of Quebec is completely disrespectful.
What about the effects of this new Law 78? What effect is that having?
It couldn't have had a better effect, to be perfectly honest.
If unintended?
It has gotten, yeah, I guess so. It has galvanized so much support from not only people in Quebec but from around the world. Russia has denounced this draconian law as anti-democratic. So when Russia's telling you your country is passing draconian laws, I think there's an issue.
Yes, you're in trouble.
It really has. You see people out on the streets, of all ages. The average age now, I would say, so the strike has been going on for over 100 days. For the past 35 days, there have been nightly marches, ranging in from maybe 500, 1,000 people to anywhere up to 10,000 people marching through the streets. And just chanting, and it's really inspirational. Now I'd say the average age has climbed significantly for the last week, when people have been coming out at 8 p.m. banging their pots and pans.
Beautiful.
Didn't it get up in the? There were even more than tens of thousands at some points.
Yes, every
City.
on the 22nd of March was the first large assembly. And people drove in from all over Quebec. Students were bussed in, and we marched through the streets during the day, and that was about 250,000.
Wow!
And then on April 22nd was Earth Day, and we had about 400,000 in the streets that were coming up against for a myriad of reasons. One against shale gas, against Plan Nord, which is a plan to exploit 1 billion acres of land in the north of Quebec that will just destroy a whole lot of the environment, and only for temporary jobs. And the government's looking to spend $300 million to build a road up there with our money to do it. So they're asking, where's the money? And they're looking to spend all this money to destroy our environment, sell it to Chinese companies, and here are the problems.
Yeah, they're trying to ship some of the gas through XL pipeline here.
Yeah, so I take it that the citizens of Canada are as distraught about the pipeline as the citizens of the United States. Not that we're being listened to.
Yes.
I had a question for you about, when we went through the financial crisis here in the United States, we heard a lot about how Canada did it right. Canada's banks were much more regulated and certain other specifics, but you didn't have the debt load that we had. So I personally was quite surprised when Canada resorted to some of these austerity measures almost. I mean, raising the tuition prices, and there's a few other measures that have been done because it doesn't sit with what I had heard about how Canada came through the financial crisis.
Right. Well, one thing about Canada and Quebec is that Quebec itself has a very high debt. We have a debt of about $250 billion, and for our province, it's incredibly high. Unfortunately, its large factor is due to the corruption in the government, which is high. It's just incredibly high. In the Prohibition in the 1920s created a mafia rule system here, which is really infiltrated the government, infiltrated the unions, and so the majority of the contracts aren't even construction contracts aren't even voted on or bid on rather. They're just given to one of several companies that are mafia owned, and then they cost to build a road in Montreal, in Quebec, it costs 30% higher than to build a road in Ontario with similar climate conditions.
Oh.
So we're paying for shoddy materials, it's not
Looks
working
like,
out.
Crony capitalism has
Yeah.
enveloped the North as well as here.
Interesting. I had no idea. Huh. And I just wanted to let people know we were talking about Bill 68, just to
78.
78. I wrote it down. Sorry. And it suspended the semester for the rest of the year, and it imposed very strict fines for people who block access to classes, and up to 35,000 Canadian dollars for individuals, and up to 125,000 for student associations and unions. And then the other thing it did was it started the protesters of over 50 or gatherings of over 50 people must give the police the itinerary 8 hours before.
Did you see the map that they drew?
No.
Oh, it's in the shape of a hand with the
Oh, oh, I did see that.
It was pretty brilliant.
Too funny. I sorry about that. I hear our music coming on to end, but Jamie, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about Occupy Montreal and the student protests going on in there. Very interesting
Keep
stuff.
up the fight, man.
And yeah,
Get out at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Go outside, bang your pots and pans.
wonderful.
Yay,
like the
okay,
idea.
wonderful.
Thanks for keeping up the fight.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. Have a
Take
good night.
care.
Good night, or good day. So we're going out to a song. It's the Declaration of the Occupations, performed by Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir. Join us next week at 11 a.m. on Tuesday. This has been AirOccupy.
Peace.
Now we rise so that all people who feel wronged by the corporate forces of the world can know that we are your allies as one people united. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. We are the 99%. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. We acknowledge.
This program was paid for by its sponsor, which is solely responsible for its content and the views